Please note that the information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Hey, welcome to Fertility Ain't Fair, the podcast where we normalize the conversations around infertility, reproductive health, and wellness. I'm your host, Brittany Jackson, here to share laughs, tears, and aha moments as we dive into our wild world with a girl who truly gets it by sharing personal insights from my own experience. Along the way, we're joined by guests who open up about their journeys, the highs, the heartbreaks, and everything in between. So whether you're new to the infertility world, looking for support, or just trying to figure it all out, this is your space to feel seen, heard, and maybe even laugh along the way. Real, raw, unfiltered, because fertility, it ain't fair, but you don't have to face it alone. Hey, welcome back to this episode of Fertility Ain't Fair, the podcast. I'm your host, Britt, and if you are new, welcome, and if you are returning, welcome back. We are going to be joined by a dynamic guest in this episode, Mrs. Aniyah Douglas. She's a women's advocate, a published model, influencer, writer, motivational speaker. You name it, she does it. And she understands that her platform, HopeStillStands, is bigger than just her. And she has made it her life's mission to share her experiences with fertility struggles, sexual abuse, depression, and reproductive health issues with the world. She is the proud mom of 2 miracle daughters, which we will get into after, y'all hear me when I say this, a total of 16 years of infertility along with secondary infertility. She also will talk about being diagnosed, you guys, with, hear me on this as well, 2 uteruses, 2 cervixes, okay, endometriosis, fibroids, and PCOS. So she has a lot to unpack with us on this episode, and I'm just so thankful to have her be an advocate in our space and speak up and encourage others not to just suffer in silence. So I have said enough. She will tell you her full story on this episode. Let's go ahead and jump in to Fertility. Well, we are back for another crazy episode of Fertility Ain't Fair, the podcast, and we have one of my favorite IG girls joining, Aniyah. Welcome to Fertility Ain't Fair.
Oh, thank you so much, Brittany, for having me. I am grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I know I thanked you off camera and thanking you again on the episode, but been following your page for quite some time, and somehow I realized I had never asked you in the podcast, which is crazy because you have a really, really unique long story. And we're going to get into all of those things. So the 16 years of infertility, secondary infertility, 2 IVF miracle babies, a uterine anomaly. I mean, a lot to unpack as always. So let's start at the very top to get into this conversation. So what I ask every new guest is, how in this current season are you defining yourself so that our audience can get to know a little about who you are and what that looks like? Because I know it can change, in different life phases. So how are you currently defining who Aniyah is?
Well, Aniyah is a survivor who is now thriving. I am a wife to the love of my life for over 20 years. And we have gone through so much together. But as a wife, it's just a blessing. But also for us to be parents of 2 miracles. It still blows my mind. I'm a women's advocate for other women. After going through my own journey, I know that I have to step up. Sometimes we are worried about what we've been through, but what about the others that may not have the strength to overcome? So I'm a women's advocate. I am a model. I'm a brand ambassador. I'm a motivational speaker. There's so much. I'm a missionary. I'm a praiser. I'm a singer. There's so much that I am. But I am me, and I'm grateful to be me. And I know that there was many times in my life that I wasn't grateful to be who I was. I didn't love myself, but now I love me fully because God made me who I was, who I am for a reason. So I am me.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. And something about you that I think you put in your bio was that, your platform, Hope Still Stands. Again, thank you for what you do in our community and as an advocate and a speaker and all of those things. You said that your platform is bigger than you. So explain what that means, to our community and kind of why you made a point to put that as part of kind of your defining of who you are in this space.
Yes, after going through infertility and surgeries and all the things, and we'll get into that, I realized it was bigger than me. There was a moment, and I'll touch on this later on, where I was at the lowest point of my life, and I just thought that my life wasn't worthy, that I wasn't woman enough, that I didn't deserve to live, that I didn't deserve love. And then after I got over that lowest part of my life, I realized, wait a minute, my middle name is Hope. Hope still stands. I'm still standing. But wait, in that, others are still standing, but they don't see it yet. They don't see because they're in the journey, they're in the trenches of it, they're in the storm. They don't know that, wait a minute, on the other side of that storm, there's a blessing. They don't know it yet. And if you give up, you'll never be able to get to that blessing. So it's bigger than me. I know that what we do every day, what you do every day, even though we may be on our own journeys, we're making an impact. We're helping others. We're touching other lives. So yes, it's bigger than me. It's not just about me. It's about the next girl, the next woman, the next couple, the next, even there's some elder women that I've met, and they're like, I've encouraged them and they've already had their children. So yeah, it's bigger than us.
Yeah, and that's good. And I'm nodding and agreeing because I tell this story often. If you've been listening to the podcast, you've heard it. However, someone told me a little while back when I felt like I was, in the beginnings of the journey. And I was at that point very angry, very jealous, very, everything. I was everything, but I was really in those really harsh emotions and to the point of not feeling worthy and not feeling like a woman and not, I haven't crossed over, have not reached to the point where I have been able to bring a miracle child home. But in the early stages, I was in a very different headspace. And someone said, well, this I think is going to be, bigger than a baby for you. I said, no, that's crazy. I said, that is the thing. That is the big thing. Like, how could you tell me that? It felt at that moment very much like a slap in the face. Like, that is the big thing. And my mom, who didn't say that, but has always continued to tell me, like, I feel like God does what God does. And he is walking you and whoever else is on this journey for your individual reasons and purposes that are bigger than you. So I fully thank you for sharing that. And I fully believe that because I think all of our platforms are collectively just crafting a new narrative, a new story, and again, are helping somebody, whether it's one person or a million. It's helping somebody, and it's one more person who doesn't have to feel like, why me? Or I'm alone, etc. So on that note, so 16 years in total of infertility. I told my husband earlier, I said, I'm talking to Lana and she's been through this and they had 2 kids. I said, she did double what we're in year 7. Okay. In this space. And so I said, she did like 2 of these, like, she did like back 2 of these. And he was like, what? I said, yes. So I know it's a lot to unpack, but if you could take us back to the initial infertility stretch that you did, the bid that you did, and getting to your first child. Take us back there, and how did you end up in our little club over here?
Yes. So I married my husband. I was 22 and he was 26. And right before that, there's a long story because I started my period at the age of 10. I've always had horrible menstrual cycles, always struggled, went to the doctor and they said, you're just a girl with bad periods. Take some ibuprofen and go home. So that journey, that's a whole other journey, not being listened to, my pain being minimized, me feeling like I'm crazy. So I prepared my husband. I said, babe, I'm a girl that has bad periods. I'm a woman that has bad periods. At the time I was a woman, of course. And he supported me in that. And that's another thing, having, your spouse, your boyfriend, your girl, whoever it is, your family member to support you, your girlfriends, your friends, I call them my girlfriends, like people that that know you, to support you even in your pain. And so he was prepared. So I was supposed to have this surgery. This doctor said, I want to do this surgery on you. And it was 2 weeks before my wedding. And I was like, I'm not doing it. Because at the time they thought it was a right cyst on my right ovary. And I was like, there's no way 2 weeks before my wedding I'm having surgery. There's no way. So after I got married, my husband and I said, let's wait a year and then we'll start to have a family. And so we wait a year and time is going by, but I'm not understanding that the bad periods have something to do with infertility, because they didn't talk about that in school. They talked about say no to drugs and, safe sex and things like that. They never talked about infertility. I never heard that term. They never talked about, you'll have struggles. If you have struggles getting pregnant, there's options for you. So I had no idea. So 1 year turns to 2. I'm still having horrible periods. I'm still being rushed to the hospital. I'm still passing out at work. So I'm like, what is going on? And so I was sent to have a hysteroscopiogram. And that's when they inject dye into your uterus. So usually when you do these procedures, the radiologist will call you the next day, or they'll put the information in your my chart and you'll read it like in a week or whatever. Well, the radiologist came in right away. So it was a painful procedure as it is. So I was already crying. So when radiologist came in, I'm like, what is going on? And my husband is in there with me, thank God, because I was a mess. So radiologist comes in and he was like, Mrs. Douglas, I just want to let you know, it's not a cyst on your right ovary. It's a half a uterus. I said, wait a minute.
Uterus.
A half a uterus. And I said, no, I'm here for a cyst on my right ovary. I'm like crying. I'm crying, but still trying to advocate for myself. And he said, no, you have half a uterus. So he gave me my films and I'm crying. My husband is like in shock. And I'm thinking, this is not what he signed up for. Like these things start to run in your mind like,
yeah,
wait, we're newlyweds. What are you talking about? But thank God, in his infinite mercy and grace, I was working at the prenatal assessment center at that time.
Oh, wow.
And I said, yes, at a prestigious military hospital at that. Okay. So I say to my husband, babe, take me to my job. I know I'm off, but please take me to my job because this doesn't sit right with me. Mm-hmm. That again, that gut feeling that we have, when someone gives you a diagnosis or says, no, you can't have this procedure, whatever it is, stand up for yourself. Don't just sit and say, okay, well, that's it. No. I said, babe, take me to my job, please. Drives me to my job. He comes in with me. I come into the prenatal assessment center. And that day, a colonel in the Army, and I bless the Lord for him, was working. He's doing ultrasounds on pregnant women. He's jumping from room to room. So I'm even in our state of, not knowing what infertility was, still didn't know what that was. Even in our state, he's doing ultrasounds. And I said, excuse me, sir. He was like, Lana, what are you doing here? And I said, yes, I know I'm supposed to be off, but can you look at my films? And remember, in his military uniform, his glasses on the tip of his nose, he puts my films in the screen and cuts the light on. And he says, you don't have half a uterus, you have 2. So you go from,
what?
I went from a cyst on my right ovary, horrible periods for years, not being listened to, pain being minimized, all the things, to having a half a uterus, to actually having 2.
Wow.
I'm in shock.
This is all the same day, like the same, like, this crazy day.
Same day. Crazy day. So I'm in shock. I'm like, what? And he says, you need, and so he could have stopped right there. No, he said, you need to research a reproductive endocrinologist. He didn't have to do that.
Nope.
But he said, no, I'm going to help you, even though you're not my patient. You work here. I'm going to give you some information. Go home
Wow.
and do your research. And that I did. I call myself, a private eye. When I tell you, when I got home, the computer, I was typing, I'm looking, what is a reproductive endocrinologist? Another term I've never heard of,
Nope.
And so I find this doctor at Johns Hopkins, God bless her, Dr. Christina Altman. I will tell anyone because she saved my life by God's grace. So I get my appointment right away. And I said to her, please, can my husband be in the procedure or in the examination? Because really the first thing was an examination. She did a thorough examination. And I'm going to say this. She did it vaginally and anally. And I'm screaming. I'm crying. I'm pulling on my husband. I could not contain myself because there was so much pain. And as I'm screaming, she says, I know. It's like she knew what was going on with me. And she went anally and could feel my cervix. She says, we need to go ahead and schedule you for surgery. Fast forward, within weeks, I was scheduled for laparoscopic surgery. Not only do I just had a double uterus, I had endometriosis, fibroids, 2 uteruses, and 2 cervixes. So when I think back, when I rewind time to when I was 15 and my mom took me to my first pap smear, and this male doctor, nothing against male doctors, but he was a male doctor, and he did my first pap smear, and he says, we do not see her cervix. He never sent us for a second opinion or third opinion or say, go to this specialist. He just says, we don't see your cervix. Well, can't see my cervix because both of my cervixes are at 9 o'clock. So all those years, my right cervix also was closed. So that right cyst on my right ovary was my right uterus filled with blood.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So when I would have accidents in school, accidents at work when it was like water, but it's really blood running down my legs, it's my right uterus couldn't take it no more. Everything would come out.
Wow.
So I was overwhelmed. When she told me I just was like, I've been saying this for 16 years that I feel like I'm having 2 periods.
I was going to ask. So you do have 2 periods every single month.
It's 2 separate systems.
Wow.
But when I would complain, well, I'm cramping for 3 to 4 days on my right side, and then I'm cramping. Oh, you're just a girl with bad periods.
Wow.
Not being listened to, not being understood. So I felt validation, but I was angry.
Yeah.
I was wasted time. This could have been dealt with before I got married. This could have been dealt with when I first got married. Then I felt like, wait, maybe I should have had that surgery 2 weeks before. All these things, you start questioning yourself. Why was I born this way? I don't see anybody else going through this. Everyone else is getting pregnant left or right. And that's when the word infertility was introduced, once she did diagnose me.
So did she say after that surgery that, hey, this is the landscape that we're dealing with? And did she then say, was she an RE or was she just a surgeon or was she both?
She's the same reproductive endocrinologist. Okay. Yes. And she does surgeries. Okay. So so she's the one that introduced and said, you can't do IUI.
Right.
This is why I'm advocating for this, because you can't do IUI because the instruments don't fit in your 2 uteruses. But what about all the other women that have 2 uteruses and they want to do IUI? You can't do it. Certain instruments do not fit in our body. That's not fair to us.
Wow.
It's not talked about. So she said that way back when that was in my 20s, 26 years old. 26 years old. She says to me, the instruments don't fit in your uteruses. And I'm like, what? I would never have thought. You would just assume. First, I'm still coming to the realization of what I am diagnosed with. So she said, well, the next best thing is IVF. What is IVF? I've never heard of it so much. And my husband is like, what? What is IVF? How much does this cost?
Also that, right.
We have only been married 4 years at this time. Like, what? It's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. So, pausing there, it's a lot for one person. It's a lot for a unit to take. did you all have support from family, loved ones? Did you all openly discuss what was happening, and how did you all support one another? Because, right, like for some people that could have been the downfall.
Yes.
Because it's a lot to take on at any point in time, but definitely in the beginning stages, you're also young. And, oh, you're young, you're young. I'm sure that came up and stuff. So, but I'm sure no one thought it would take, X amount of years to get to that point. But how did you all support each other, and how did you all get support during all of this?
Yeah, so my parents had already knew. So not knew about the diagnosis, but knew about the pain I was going through, because I was born with one kidney. When you have one kidney, you're most
Wait a
likely
minute.
have,
Wait a
yes.
minute.
Mm-hmm.
So one kidney,
Yes.
2 uteruses,
Uh-huh.
2 cervixes,
Mm-hmm.
endo,
Mm-hmm.
thyroid.
Fibroids. Yes.
Are we missing something?
And later on, at the age of 39, I was diagnosed with PCOS.
Okay, we'll get there. Okay,
And we'll
continue. I
get
was gonna make
there.
sure we have all the
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Baby, it was set. The miracle is heavy on the miracles because
Yes.
my God. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So my parents, and they saw me struggling in pain. My mom coming to pick me up at school, crying because I was embarrassed when I got up from my desk. The chair was full of blood. Just different things. Being in it when everybody else is playing outside. I'm laying in the bed, or whatever the case may be. So they knew that. And even when I was a baby, the doctor said, she has one kidney, blood on her stomach, another thing, blood on her stomach, jaundice, and a liver infection. Never was sent for further tests. So they kind of knew what was going on. So when we came back to my parents and to my husband's parents, my siblings, I talked to my uncle. Like we had prayer warriors around us, praying for us, lifting us up, encouraging us, because it was hard. It was many tears. My mom sometimes would heat up wet towels, put it in the microwave, and lay it on my stomach to relieve the pain. I mean, so they knew. But my husband's parents, this is something brand new for them, but they supported us through it all. And then loving on each other. I got to a point over the years after the diagnosis, I started to push him away, telling him to marry somebody else, because I felt like he was wasting his time with me, that he would have had 2 or 3 kids by then. You're wasting your time. You're this young man, flourishing in your job. And, so I was pushing him away, but he was still loving on me. So sometimes he may have been, not he may have, but he was loving on me. I loved on him, but I was still telling him to move on, And so that was a difficult time. But we still tried to lift each other up. After a while, I started to turn into a robot. I got to go to my ultrasounds. I got to go get an MRI. Okay. I got to go get my blood work. Okay. Remember on the schedule, I got to go do this procedure. Okay. And the next thing, okay, I got to, I had my cervix open. Okay. Then like in a couple of weeks, I have to go back to get the Foley catheter removed. And I was just, whatever we have to do to have a baby, that was me. And I was smiling like everything was okay, but inside I was hurting. I was questioning, who am I? Why am I here? Why am I going through this? So yeah, that's what that journey was.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking back to, again, earlier on, and those same thoughts with my husband, right? Like you didn't sign up for this, to your point. We didn't know this going into our relationship and into our marriage. And, again, you can go elsewhere. It's easier somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to be, I never wanted to feel like he felt like he was being, he would regret, staying, because there was going to be, now that we were more aware, a big hill that we're still climbing. But to your point also with, your husband, there was never a moment when he was ever like, girl, girl, be quiet. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what? Like, no. Like, I'm not going nowhere. If it never happens, it never happens. I did not just marry you to have children. Like, we are a unit, a family together. Here, we're complete now. It would be great to expand, but we are complete as is. And I'm willing to do whatever you are willing to do as far as you want to go, as long as it won't compromise you. And, so I always say shout out to the good partners, because again, I was on a panel probably a year or two ago now at an endo. I'm also an endo girl, with an endo and a fibro girl, but on an endo panel out in fertility. And I think there may have been 5 or 6 of us on that stage. And I want to say 2 or 3 women had gotten divorced through the journey. And again, not saying that, that was the deciding factor, but clearly it took a toll on the relationship. So I think it's important always for those of us who are looking for, inspiration, that it can be done. If you have the right partner, can be done. So from that surgery to starting IVF, or actually from that surgery to your first child, what was that gap of time? There.
Wow. So that was
of IVF did you all do and all of that good stuff?
So this is the kicker. So we did IVF. So we had our first child in 2013. So I was 32, 31, and I got diagnosed when I was 26. So yeah, so that's a few years. But yes, what was I going to say? So IVF, when we did the IVF journey, we were optimistic and we just believed this was going to happen. So, my husband took money out of his 401k. This is real. Took money out of his 401k for us to pay for IVF. And I remember when the doctor was transferring the embryo after, long story short, into my left uterus, I remember he could not get the speculum to clamp onto my cervix. And like I said, both of them are at 9 o'clock. And so I just remember that. And I remember seeing it come, on the screen. I could see they had the ultrasound on my belly and the embryo, going up. I remember.
Yep.
But I just remember how hard it was for him to clamp it down. So fine. It's okay. So the nurse said in a couple of days, we will call you to find out, because you do a pregnancy test, we will call you with the results. And I remember my husband and I, we left early from work. We drove home. We were so excited. We cuddled up on the couch and we waited for the phone call. And we got on the phone and she said, Mr. and Mrs. Douglas, I just want to let you know that it's negative. And I was like, wait, this was the only way. Do you know what we've been through? Like, this is it. So you're saying it's negative. What does that mean? I remember the wailing cry that I let out.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just screaming and I dropped the phone. So my husband picked up the phone and finished the conversation, but I was done.
Yep.
That was like, what else am I here for? Like, this is it. This is what we were supposed to do to get pregnant. What do you mean it's negative? So after that, I was really pushing him away. I mean, I was like, just move on. So it was one night he was working night shift, and this is where the lowest point came. He's working night shift, and I walk into the kitchen and I said, let me end it all. It's time for me to just end it. And so there's a butcher board, and just, this is a, what do you want to say? Viewer discretion. It's a disclaimer so that you know that what I'm about to say may be a trigger. I'm looking at the butcher board and I'm literally pulling up the knives. Okay, this one's too short. Okay, wait, this one is too straight. Okay, this won't cut my throat. Okay, this one's serrated. Okay, this is the one I'm gonna use to cut my throat. And God said to me, Aniyah, your life has a purpose. Hope still stands.
Wow.
I said, with me? Hope still, what do you mean? Hope still stands. My life has a purpose. Your life has a purpose. So I put the knife back in the butcher board. That was my lowest point. I was ready to kill myself because I felt like I wasn't woman enough.
Yep.
I felt like my body betrayed me.
Yep.
Who am I? Everyone else, I mean, literally people in my family, people at my job, the commercials, pamper commercials, everybody's
Yep.
getting pregnant
Yep.
left and right. My husband
Yep.
and I would talk to each other. We're good people. We are good people. Why can't we get pregnant? What is it? But everybody else, people are complaining. I mean, I was still working in prenatal assessment center. I
I
was
was
still
going to
working there.
ask if you how that situation worked, right? Because you're around it every single day.
Every single day, and people complaining. They already have 2 daughters, and they're
Hmm.
having an ultrasound. And one of the commanders that would walk out, she would look at me because she knew my situation. Because I was always in the doctor's ears that I worked with, and she knew my situation. And they're complaining because they're having another girl.
Hmm.
The father comes out the room. I can't believe it. Another girl. Well, don't you know it's your fault? But anyways, but I'm like, you're complaining. I just want one baby.
Just one.
Just one.
Just one.
Just one. Other
The
people.
luxury to be able to complain about having not just another child, but to not have the gender that you want. And that's one of the things that with infertility, I think is, again, so hard, is that it's a luxury.
Yes.
For so many, and the haphazardness of just statements and things to, again, to say we're ready to get pregnant and it happens. A luxury.
A luxury.
That you can plan that out or spontaneously have it happen, or say, okay, we want to expand. Boop. We did
like
it.
that.
We want to have kids every 2 years. Boop, did it. Perfect timeline. Like,
Yep.
it's crazy.
It's crazy how that happens. I had family members. I had my sister and my sister-in-law, and 2 cousins all got pregnant at the same time. So every year when their birthday came, they're all celebrating their. And I was just like, what is going on? So, fast forward to one day, because I know I don't want to take up too much time, but fast forward to one day, I woke up and I have to go to the bathroom so bad. I'm like, I have to. Why do I have to pee so bad? And I still have my eyes closed, and I'm feeling on the left side of the bed for my husband, and I look, and he's not there. And I look, and the light is on down. I can see this on the steps. The light's on, so I'm like, he's been awake. So I'm like, baby, are you okay? And he was like, yeah, I'm fine. So remind me, Brittany, to tell you what he was doing downstairs, because I'll forget. So I was like, man, I feel like I need to take a pregnancy test. What? And I'm talking to myself, why would I take a pregnancy? I'm not taking a pregnancy test. What is going on? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a test. If I take a test and it's negative, I'm not gonna tell him. But if it's positive, I was like, nah, it's not gonna be positive. There's no way. So I go to take the test. And I said, Leanna, don't look at the test. Let it do its thing. And then look. And when I looked, the line, it was already 2 lines. I said,
wait, so this is after the IVF negative?
Negative.
Okay.
Yes.
How long after? Do you remember? Like, how was
Maybe,
it? Like,
I think that was 6.5 years. So that made it been a year and a half later.
okay.
And so I'm like,
you all did not do any more IVF cycles for that year and a half.
we did not have the money.
Okay. I mean,
You know what I mean? It's that alone. We could do a podcast just on IVF. It is ridiculous.
We might. We can.
How expensive IVF is.
Yes. Yeah.
What's frustrating to me, after IVF, we never got a phone call checking on us to see how we're doing. We never was, offered to see a social worker, a psychiatrist, a therapist, a doctor, a nurse. Never, ever after getting a failed IVF transfer, a negative test. We were never, to this day, and it's been years, we have never been called back to see how we were doing. Physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, never. $16,000 was gone. But the kicker is, I still had embryos frozen.
I was going to ask, okay, did we leave with some embryos?
That's a whole nother thing.
Okay.
So let me remind me, because 2 things you have to remind me.
What was your husband? Because I forget too, girl. So what was your husband doing after this positive test was revealed?
Yes. Okay, so after I see that the test is positive, I start screaming. of course, because I'm like, there's no way this is positive. So my husband runs up the stairs. What's wrong? And I'm like, baby, I just took a test. It's 2 lines. He was like, let me look at the box. He's like, you're pregnant. I'm like, no, I'm not. He's like, you are pregnant. I'm like, you're lying. So I called my mother. I'm like, mommy, I just took a pregnant, because she's she's a retired OB nurse. And so I said, mommy, I took a pregnancy test and there's 2 lines. She was like, you're pregnant. I was like, no, I'm not. So we rushed to OBGYN. I'm high risk. I'm like, I demand an ultrasound. I demand. And they said, we have no appointments, Mrs. Douglas, but tomorrow we will get you in. The next day, there was a flicker. There was a heartbeat. I was pregnant after 8 years.
Wow. So spontaneously.
Naturally pregnant
Wow.
after 8 years.
Wow.
But so as we're fast forwarding a little bit, I'm 6 months pregnant with this same miracle baby. After 8 years of infertility, multiple surgeries, the diagnosis, all those things. I'm 6 months pregnant, sitting on the couch. I'm holding my belly. And my husband says to me, baby, we cannot afford to continue to pay for our frozen embryos.
Oh, the storage fees.
We cannot afford it. And I said, I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to hear him say this to me. Because even though I'm pregnant, it still makes me emotional. Even though I'm pregnant and I'm grateful, I'm blessed in the Lord, I'm still overjoyed. I didn't want to think about the frozen embryos. I didn't even want to think about what would happen to them. I just figured like we would try IVF one day again.
Right. I mean, you work so hard to get there. I mean, let's be clear, like getting embryos is not a guarantee, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but like IVF is hard. It does not work for everybody. It does not guarantee embryos. It does not guarantee a baby. So, for a lot of us, and I put myself included, like just to get to the embryo status was like a really big deal that for us took, multiple rounds to even get something to bank, So it's a lot.
It's a lot
to consider and think about, even if again, it's like they're on ice, right? So it's like they're good, they're safe, and I can just let that be until I figure out what's next. But the thought of like destroying or you can donate, you can whatever you want to do is up to you, but that's a lot.
It's a lot. I literally had to grieve while pregnant. So my husband said there's 3 options, like you just said. You donate it to a couple, you donate it to science, or you discard them. And I'm literally, like I said, I'm holding my belly and I'm crying, grieving. And I told him, do not ever tell me what decision you made. I said, I cannot make the decision. To this day,
wow,
he has never told me what he told the Shady Grove Hospital what to do. To this day, I
didn't sign off on what had to be done.
I could not. How can I make that decision?
No, I agree. I remember when we had to do paperwork to move our embryos from Shady Grove to our current clinic, and like we had to. To that point, it took me out that night because I was like, okay, quick and easy, transfer them and whatever. But it was all of these things like, if they were destroyed in transit, or if something happens, or if one of you all die, what do you want to do with it? It was like, the transfer paperwork, and then it was like the new clinic paperwork to handle the embryo. So it was like, if one of you all dies, if this happens, if it was always different scenarios. And we had to both initial every single thing and decide in that moment, if it goes X amount of time, what would you do with them, or whatever it was. And it literally took me out. I was bawling, crying that night, trying to just get through my initials on this paperwork. So I can't even imagine the level of emotion it is to, again, go through it, be pregnant, and try to figure out. But the fact that he never told you is wild.
Yeah.
That's what you needed. And you were clear on your needs, clear on what you wanted. I'm glad he was able to do it and just say, we are done. So those embryos were gone.
They were gone. So
they're gone.
Yeah, to this day, I don't know. I had to get through a point of healing after I had my first daughter, by the grace of God. You would see a child and you're like,
Is that
Ooh,
my
that
turn?
thing. Ooh, that thing would
Yeah.
get me. I had to really like Leanna, because
Wow.
you'll see a child like that looks just like my husband. Woo,
Wow.
that thing. So I had to really I
Ooh.
had to like release that to the Lord,
Yeah.
because it's hard. And the reason why I had to have him make that decision, I had to concentrate on
Right. You
being
had to
healthy.
present for your current.
Right. I'm already high risk.
Right.
This
Yeah.
is the kicker with having a Didelphys uterus. She was in my left uterus. Thank God. But if she was in my right uterus, I would have been on bed rest for the whole pregnancy, because my right cervix was closed. My right cervix was incompetent. I would have had to have a surgery to have a cerclage plate. It was so much that I would have had to go through.
Wow.
She was in my left uterus. So I'm like, I need to be calm. I
Yep.
need no stress.
Yep.
I'm
Yeah.
already high risk, and I still
Yeah.
have fibroids.
Right.
While, and she's think about that. That's not a regular uterus.
No.
She's in,
Yeah.
oh, it's like I'm putting hearts up.
I
Sorry.
know. It's fine.
But that's what
Yeah.
my uterus, that's what it is. And so she's in a smaller
Yeah.
uterus
Yeah.
with fibroid. Like, come on.
So did you have fibroids in both of your uteruses or just one?
So both. So one was in one and one was the other. And there was one that
Wow.
was kind of like in the middle.
Wow.
So it was, and then my endometriosis, which, you
Mhm.
still have endometriosis, but
Yeah.
when she first did the surgery,
Mhm.
my fallopian tubes, I have a fallopian tube attached to one uterus, a fallopian tube attached to the other one.
Okay.
It was just wrapped with endometriosis.
Same.
It was just entangled.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I have no more tubes because of that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's no
Okay.
joke.
So you have your first child.
Yes.
Yay. And then at some point, obviously, you guys were like, we want to expand,
Yes.
I'm assuming.
Yes, we did.
So I know that you dealt with secondary infertility, which is why this is called Fertility Ain't Fair, because daggone it, one time won't enough. Like, come on. Like, come on. If 8 years stretch wasn't enough, why must I go through it? But here we are. And
Here we are.
and to tell your story because someone else needs to hear it. So at that point, did you all say, okay, we're just going to try naturally again? We got very lucky. Or did you all say, nope, let's go straight back in and see if we can make IVF work, knowing all that we know, now?
Yeah, so we just figured, we got pregnant naturally. We'll get pregnant naturally again, right? Just like everybody else. We just assumed. We never thought, never again did we hear secondary infertility. Never heard that term before. So that wasn't even in my mind. I just thought, like, well, I'm open now. I just gave birth naturally. I did have preeclampsia. I had her at 32 weeks. So she was in the NICU for 2 weeks instead of 6 weeks, which was we were so grateful for. Her name is Olivia, and she's a sweetheart. Now she's 12 years old, and we love her so much. She's a sweetheart. But anyway, so we thought, we'll wait a year, just really love on her and just enjoy being a family of 3, and then we will try again. Well, a year turned to 2, 2 turned to 5, 5 turned to 8. And I'm like, why is this happening again? Well, at around 6 years, she started asking. It's a different perspective when it's the couple, the
I
parents.
was going to ask, how was that first ask? Like, talking to someone else in that same predicament that she went through secondary infertility, and she was like, when my daughter started asking about a sibling, it just it grounded me and it floored me and it just took me on out.
Yes.
Yeah. So what does she? Okay, question: does she know anything? I mean, she's 12 now, so but does she know about what you all went through to get her here? Okay, she does.
Yes, we told her once she could understand.
Yeah.
We were always thinking, our miracle, Olivia, our miracle, our hope, our miracle.
Yeah.
But once she could understand and she saw like the little scars, my incisions on my belly, she understood, and she would always say, your belly's so pretty, mommy. And it was a weird feeling to have her say that to me, because at first I was looking at my scars as something negative. But once she's saying, oh, your belly's so beautiful. Oh, look at your belly. When she was really young, I'm like, no, they're my beauty marks. It shows my journey. All the marks, all the scars, all the incisions on my belly. That's my journey. They're my beauty marks, not scars. And so she started to ask. Her cousins have siblings, friends at school have siblings. And she says, Mommy, when I have a brother, they can sit right next to me in the car and we can watch movies. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I'm just driving. And then if I have a sister, she can sit behind me and we all sit together. And I'm just like, yeah, oh, yeah. Time is ticking. And I'm getting older. That's another thing. After 35, you're considered an elder patient.
Girl, I just put that on my TikTok the other day. I said now I know, but like when I first heard that at like 30, someone, I think we first got over to the RE and we first dove into this. I said, how come no one told me that before?
Come on.
Maybe I would have started sooner.
Just don't know. Things that are not talked about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all those things, I'm like, oh my gosh. And she would ask constantly. She'll ask my husband. And so one day we're literally sitting in the kitchen, we're just talking. And she said, so when are y'all gonna have a baby? Now she's old enough, like she's older now. Like, when are you gonna have a baby? Like, she just said it like straight out. And I got very emotional. And my husband said, mommy and daddy wanted you so bad. We prayed for you. We went through so much to have you. We may not have another baby. And her face, like I said, it's different when, as a couple, what you're going through. But when you finally have your child and they want a sibling, they want a brother or a sister, that's a whole nother level of pain. When you cannot give that to them. You can't just, okay, we're going to go upstairs and in 6 weeks, we'll find out if we're, no, it was so painful. And we had to really explain it to her. After that day, she never asked again.
Oh, sweet girl.
So it seemed like she
understood. Yeah.
This, and I would say, you have your cousins. Don't forget, you have all your cousins. Will have play dates. Will continue to spend the night over each other. So we always did that. When she was born, we were always surrounding her with her cousins, always, and they wanted to be around her.
Yeah,
they loved on her, and my aunt, her aunts and uncles, and everyone. They just were so grateful. Their perspective of our family finding out we were pregnant, it's priceless. It's priceless. So, like I said, 8 years before the 8-year mark, it was during COVID, and I was teleworking because we couldn't go to work during the pandemic. Really, during the pandemic, that's the better term. And I was having pain on my left side. I was like, I've never had issues on my left. I always had pain on my right. I'm like, something is not right. I don't understand. And my aunt called me one day and said, you have something blocking your uteruses. The Lord told me to tell you. She called me. The Lord told me to tell you have something blocking your uteruses. And I said, what do you mean? I'm fine. She prayed over me. Prayed over me. And that next month, I went in for a appointment with my primary care doctor. And she said, you sure you're having pain? And she started to push on my belly, and I jumped. Oh, she said, oh, you know your body. And I said, yes, I do. So she sent me for an ultrasound. And they said, oh, it's a cyst on your left ovary.
Oh, here we go again.
And I said, no. See, the old me would have said, oh, no. Right. I said, no. Nope. I need to have a second opinion.
Yep.
Because I don't think it's just a cyst on my left ovary.
Nope.
No. So they sent me to this doctor to do a double balloon, because I have 2 uteruses, double balloon procedure. And they saw all these polyps. And she's doing the procedure with no anesthesia. And I'm like, And I'm just sitting there. I'm trying to hold my breath in a way. And she says, do you remember you had fibroids?
Do I remember I had fibroids?
And honestly, I forgot.
Did you?
Yes, because I'm pregnant. I had a baby. I'm moving on with my life. I'm not having as painful periods as I was before. So now I'm like, I'm finally living with my husband, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I get it. Beginning of our marriage, I'm in pain all the time.
Yeah.
So now we're finally enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. Things
Yeah.
they don't talk about.
I get
So
it.
I really put it in the back of my mind. She was like, did you remember you had fibroids? And I was like, oh my gosh, I do have fibroids. She was like, well, we're going to send you to a specialist. She sent me to a specialist, a Black female doctor, no shade to anybody else.
Sure.
This was the first time I had a Black female doctor.
Wow.
And when I tell you, she was a breath of fresh air. And she said to me, well, we either can do a hysterectomy, because at that time I was already ready. I was done. I've gone through 30 years.
Right.
30. My whole life, basically.
Yeah.
With horrible periods and surgeries and all those things. She said, so we could do a hysterectomy, or we could do a robotic laparoscopic myomectomy.
Yeah.
What is that? Again, never heard of this. Yeah. And so I came home to my husband. I talked to him. I was like, I'm ready for hysterectomy. I'm done. We have Olivia. We are grateful. We're blessed. I mean, grateful. I'm not going to take it for granted. We have our child, our miracle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm good. And he said, baby, I think you should try the robotic laparoscopic myomectomy. I was insulted. I was, what? I said, but then I'll have to have a C-section. He said, baby, let's just try it. I had that surgery February of 2021. I was pregnant by August.
Oh my gosh.
Like that, after another 8 years.
Wow.
I was pregnant. I turned 40 in August. 40 years old, and I'm pregnant after 8 years of secondary infertility.
Wow.
No words.
None. I have none.
No words.
None. Wow.
No words. God is, and we call her name is Aniyah Grace, because she's God's grace.
God's grace
in human form.
Yeah.
So she'll be 3 next month.
My goodness.
No words.
That is a story.
That is a story. So
that is a story.
Think back, rewind back. If I would have killed myself, it's bigger than me.
That's exactly where I was going. Even when the first pregnancy, I mean, you were so close to just purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so we gotta dive back into real quick though the two uterus to cervix situation, because there are more anomalies in the uterine family, if you will. I told you offline that we had a guest way back when, a girlfriend of mine who I used to work with, who found out that she, through infertility issues, that she had a bicornate uterus, which we call the unicorn uterus, because of its shape and everything. And so, she really felt like a unicorn, like, and why me? But again, with faith and determination and modern science, she now has 2 girls, both through IVF though. So give us the actual term again, because I know I asked you before, but I know I'm gonna butcher it. What is the term of your anomaly?
Anomaly.
And then what are some of the other ones that, again, our community probably, may not know much of anything about or at all about, because I sure didn't.
Sure. Yes. So I have a Didelphys uterus. So that's 2 uteruses, 2 cervixes. But I learned on the way, there's a lady named Elizabeth Omoa. She has a Didelphys uterus, but she has 2 uteruses, 2 cervixes, and 2 vaginas. So I thought I was the only one in the world. But my aunt, the same aunt that prayed for me, found Miss Elizabeth online on YouTube, and we connected, and her Instagram is Special Lady Awareness. But yes, so she spreads awareness around Africa, around Europe. So she's overseas, but she has 2 uteruses, 2 cervixes, and 2 vaginas. And I was blown away. We also have, like you said, a bicornate uterus, where you have 2 uteruses and 1 cervix. But then you have a unicornate uterus when it's just half a uterus. And so you can get pregnant with a Didelphys uterus in both uteruses at the same time, because you are having 2 periods at the same time. So there was a lot of studies. Actually, there was a Today Show, and I think Good Morning America aired this couple that got pregnant in both uteruses at the same time, and the babies are not twins. So when they say, well, you just have 1 period, I'm like, no, I'm having 2 periods every single month.
That's a
But
really wild.
it's really wild. And so I had to be careful during the IVF stage. They want, she was thinking about having the doctor transfer 2 embryos, but those embryos could have split. There's so
Yep.
many, and you're already in a smaller uterus. So these are things that I want to advocate more and talk about more to prepare women out there that don't know they have 2 uteruses, and when they are diagnosed, they may not know what to ask for. But I also want to shine a light on the MRKH sisters out there. There are those that have MRKH that do not have a uterus at all. They
What
have
is
their
that
ovaries.
exactly? What does that stand for?
I have to look it up. It's MRKH. If you type it in, you will see a whole, diagnosis and information about MRKH. And there's so many women and so many girls out there that are born without a uterus. Some of them have the fallopian tubes, the embryos. Some of them have a cervix, but they don't have a uterus. Some of them don't have a cervix and no uterus. There's different variations when it comes to MRKH. So please look for that, because they don't get a lot of light like those that have endometriosis and fibroids. And
Right.
so definitely wanted to highlight that also.
And with that, do they know, is that a genetic condition? Like, do they know why that happens? Do they
I
have any
don't
idea?
Yeah, I don't know for sure if they know why it happens. I don't know if it's like a history, like other people in
Mhm.
their family have born with MRKH. I don't know for sure, but
Right. Thank you
I've
for
been,
sharing that.
yeah, I've been connecting more and more with the MRKH. I did a live with a lady from Australia maybe last year, and she had a uterine transplant. She has MRKH, she had a
Yeah.
uterine transplant and had a successful pregnancy and has her baby girl.
I feel like, was she like in like news publications? Because I
Yes.
read a story about
Yes.
someone overseas who got a uterine transplant and had a
Mm-hmm.
whole pregnancy and a baby. It's
Yes.
probably her.
Yes.
And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're all very now, like, 'cause we're all advocates and we're always like looking for more information. Like, we're all like very
Mm-hmm.
like science, we nerd out over that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I mean, what a way to be able to expand fertility
Mm-hmm.
options. I was like, a uterine transplant. Like, I didn't even
Yes.
think about it, but I mean, it's like any other organ, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely. Like, what a
Mm-hmm.
way to just expand access for those
Yes.
who do not have it. And I don't think, if you would have told me years ago that women don't have a uterus, I'd be like, what do you, I'm not a uterus? Of course
Mm-hmm.
we all have a uterus. You know what I mean? Like, it
Mm-hmm.
could be jacked up, but we all
Mm-hmm.
got one and we
Mm-hmm.
don't. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, thank you for bringing that to light and attention. And now I'm going to be like, okay, we got to find someone to come on the podcast and discuss that directly, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go to Google immediately after this and get some more information.
Yes.
So as we try to wrap up,
Mm-hmm.
before how to connect, what is, I guess, a lasting thing that you would like to leave with our community?
Sure. Something I say all the time is you are enough where you are right now. Having babies and being pregnant and having that whole experience, that is wonderful in its place. Of course, it's a blessing. But right now, you're enough. When I was going through infertility in my 20s into my 30s, I did not see my worth. I did not see um, that or feel that I was deserving of love. So that's why I was always pushing. I call him my love. I was always pushing love away. But you are deserving of love right now. No matter what you're diagnosed with, no matter how long you've been trying to get pregnant, you are worthy of love. And no matter what you face, advocate for yourself. Don't let anybody silence you. Do not suffer in silence, but don't let anybody minimize your voice. You have the right to speak up for yourself. You have the right to call attention to what's going on with you. But again, love yourself on the journey. Allow others to love on you. When I was going through infertility and my husband, the first years of our marriage, we didn't do things like, go on a spa day. After a fertility treatment, let's just go get a massage. We didn't do that. We were
Wait a
in
minute.
the trenches.
Yeah.
So we didn't take the time to do self-care for each other and self-care for ourselves. So I implore you, I encourage you to do everything you can to love on yourself. Take that trip by yourself if you have to. Take that trip with your friends. Take that trip with your loved ones. Go get a massage. Go get your nails done. Get your hair done. You deserve the love. You deserve to treat yourself. No matter what you are diagnosed with, you are worthy and you are a blessing. You still deserve to follow after your purpose. There is still purpose in you. We get caught up in the journey and forget, wait a minute, I still can start my business. I still can go sing, on Broadway. I still can follow after my dreams while I'm on the journey. So don't lose yourself. Love on you. Allow others to love on you. Seek therapy. Go look for a pastor or a minister that can just, pour into you. You can go to therapy. It's okay. That doesn't make you less than. You're not weak. So love on yourself. That's what I always tell others. Hope still stands. You are still standing no matter what you face. So don't give up on you.
I receive. If no one else does, I do. Because I
Thank
need to
you.
continue to have it and to hear that. So on that note, if someone wants to connect with you, they want to find you, and yeah, just get in your world a little bit and have a little bit of extra hope and light in their life, how can they find you on all the things?
Yes, I'm on on Instagram and Facebook at HopeStillStands. That is not just a Instagram handle. That is my platform. Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things. Hope for the evidence of things not seen. It's not in your hands yet. To keep on hoping. So yes, follow me on Hope Still Stands. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Well, that does it for this episode of Fertility in the Podcast. Did you learn something? Because I know I did. I learned actually several things in this episode, which is why I love our guests, because there's always something new to learn and always another journey, another path to just become educated on and to just gain hope from, because she had a story. I mean, we all got a story, but my goodness, this has been a wild ride through Leanna's life. So connect with her, follow her, and feel free to reach out to another person in our growing Fertility 8 Fair village. Make sure you also follow us on Fertility 8 Fair on Instagram and Facebook. Check out our website and connect with me as well via email or via DM, because you slide, I'll slide back. And what else? Listen to past episodes, watch past episodes of our podcast. We have 4 seasons, y'all. Like, we've been doing this for a little bit of minute, so I appreciate those that have been here from the beginning, and for those that we're meeting, virtually, and growing with every single episode. So, as I always say, until next time, I'm your forever friend in fertility, and stay hopeful.